Hi, this is Matthew. We're going to talk about the next Beach Boys album in 1965, the end of the year, called Beach Boys Party. There's an expanded one called Unplugged, I think it is. But it's, as I found out, it's not really a party. It is a contrived, planned, perceived party. They toured around and everything, and Capitol needed a Christmas. They wanted something for the holidays. That Christmas album had done so well. They wanted something else. They really weren't kind of interested in doing that. What they decided to do instead was kind of do something for the holiday season. Everybody's together. We'll make a party, and we'll have everybody there, and we'll sing songs and do all kind of acoustic. So it was kind of the first Unplugged album of a sort. It wasn't actually live or a real party. It's perceived as one. They recorded the songs were recorded in studios over 5 sessions, and then afterward they went and done an overdub over like the people, family and friends and stuff talking, and then they mixed it all together and combined it. And it sounds like it's a party. It's really, really well done. It really does sound like we're having a party in the studio here, which is the whole point. And it does work pretty well, actually. Yeah, they cover they make fun of themselves, which is kind of cool. It takes a good band to make fun of itself. I know people don't always like that, but the fact that they can do it was pretty cool. They were they seem to like humor anyway from the last few albums that we've looked at. So it's not surprising. And then they do a bunch of other covers of different people who they've been influenced by and stuff. You've got the 12 tracks, but then several years ago they put out an expanded version. It's like 2 discs. It's 81 tracks. It's over 2 hours long. That remixed of that album, plus a bunch of other stuff they didn't use, and a bunch of dialogue segments and all kinds of stuff on there. We'll see what's in this party here first. We'll see how many. I don't know if I can get all the listings here. Just check your streaming service of choice. You'll see this big one. That's what it came up first for me on Apple Music. You go down, you see other versions. You've got the mono stereo one, and you've got just the regular one that normally just kind of the stereo mix or even a remix of that. So so you got some options for this one, Beach Boys Party. We'll see what's on it, see who's all at the party and all that kind of stuff, all the different songs on Wikipedia. We'll see what we've got here. We start with side 1. Holy Gully by the Olympics. For their writers. It's Mike Love on vocals here. Brian is not very involved with this. Obviously, he was well into making Pet Sounds, and all that was going on with him and his mind and just the creativity and everything that was happening, which we'll get into next time, actually. That is probably my favorite album ever by these guys. We'll get into that later. But he's not as involved. It's mostly a lot of Mike Love spearheading things. He's there. He's just kind of, he'd be your guy in the corner, just kind of like not doing much if it was a real party. He is there, he is involved, he just do things, but not like in other years. But then we jump to I Should Have Known Better. That's the Beatles, of course. That should be a Lennon McCartney. Yes, it is. I thought so. Carl Wilson and Noel Jardine do the vocal duties here, so you get to spotlight on those two, which is great. And then Tell Me Why, the Beatles, of course, also Lennon McCartney. Vocally, we have Al Jardine and Carl Wilson again, so they do those two. And then we have Pop In My Mouth was the Revingtons, of course. Gives their writers. A vocal here should be Brian Wilson and Mike Love, which is correct. I do love it when they do that song. It's very fun. If you haven't heard a version of that, go check this one out. If you haven't checked out that live Beach Boys concert release, Definitely check this out too if you haven't. Mountain of Love, Harold Dorman, with Mike Love there. And then we end the side with You've Got to Hide Your Love Away by the Beatles. Of course, Lennon McCartney, of course, with Dennis Wilson on vocals. So everybody gets to do vocal stuff here. We have one more side on here on 7. Devoted to You, that's the Everly Brothers, of course. They didn't write that. Interesting. Love and Wilson do vocals here. Now we go to side 2, so there must be a 14-track side. I thought it was 12. I'm not sure, but there are some odd links. Some are shorter than others, so they've able to cram 7 onto the side. Side 2, though, we start with Alley Oop, which I really like. The Hollywood Argyles. That's a great song. Fun. Yeah, if you haven't heard that, go check out the original. Also, it's fun. They forget some words here, for sure. Mike Love on vocals. He does a good job. I've always liked that song. I haven't heard it in a long time. First time I heard that one, way back in the day, in about the late 80s, Sam's, for years, in our local Sam's, had a jukebox just sitting there that I guess you could buy, but you could literally go over to it, pick stuff off of there and play it, and it would pull down the 45 and play it and bring it back up to the, it's where the records were. So cool. It was a Wurlitzer. I found out later what those were. I always wanted one of those. But I heard this song on there. They had a bunch of other ones, but my parents played that one, or at least, or someone played it at least. It was always playing music. 9 times out of 10, it was always playing something. I don't know if they rotated out records or what they did, but it was there for years and years and years, and it finally went away. But it was always fun to go and play with that thing. That's where I heard Alley Oop for the first time. A bunch of other oldies as well. So I hope somebody got that and has enjoyed it, or someone is enjoying it somewhere out there. I hope it's still functioning out there. Hopefully. I think it was probably a brand new one at the time. It's all plastic and shiny and stuff. I think it was probably a new version of it, but I hope it still works. I hope somebody's enjoying it out there with all those records in its side. Then we have There's No Other Like My Baby by the Crystals. Again, that the whole Phil Spector influence. And Phil Spector did write that one with somebody else, just for trivia. Brian Wilson on vocals here. And then we have a medley of I Get Around in Little Deuce Coupe, where they make fun of themselves, of course. And all the other people, of course, that were credited on that. Mike Love on vocals. The Times They Are Changing by Bob Dylan. They do a version of that with Al Jardine doing a good job there. And then our last one is Barbara Ann by the Regents. Yes, that Barbara Ann that everybody plays off of this. The only thing anybody plays off of this album. That All Dressed Up for School that we talked about before, I guess that had been released to stations, and I guess it has silence in there somewhere, because again, I've never heard it. Dee just didn't really like that, because you don't want dead air on the radio. So whenever this came out, I guess they just combed through it and thought, oh, that looks like a good one. So everybody started playing Barbara Ann, and that got a big hit off of that. So with, of course, Brian Wilson and Dean Torrance was there. I forget who Dean Torrance was, but he was at this gathering at some point. This, supposed gathering, but interesting. It comes off very well. It doesn't come off as forced. It comes like a very much informal studio party that for some reason they had at the studio. But it works. It works very, very well. It's amazing how well it actually comes off. Our personnel, we've got, of course, the Beach Boys, though. Al Jardine vocals, acoustic 6 12-inch string guitars, and he also plays his ashtray. So Who knew? He plays his ashtray with a pick, I think. Bruce Johnston, who's of course there now, vocals and electric bass. He's Brian's replacement, so glad he got to be involved in some way. Mike Lev on vocals, Brian Wilson vocals and bass, piano, and bongos. Carl Wilson vocals, acoustic, 6 and 12-string guitars and bass. Dennis Wilson on vocals, bongos, and castanet and harmonica. Guest people, let's see who we have here. Hal Blaine bongos, okay, so our Wrecking Crew guys, basically. Ray Avery on bongos as well. Steve Corfith on bongos and tambourine. Ron Swallow tambourine. How fun, I love tambourines. Terry Melcher on tambourine, good grief. This must have been fun to edit together, because there was like 5 sessions, as I said, at different times. Billy Hinch harmonica, oh, he's on Mountain of Love. Dean Torrance, co-lead vocals on Barbara Ann. I forget who Dean Torrance is, but I know he comes in later. I don't feel like clicking his link right now, but I think he comes up later. He's showing up here for sure. Marilyn Wilson on vocals, Brian's then wife, basicly. And that is it. That is all of our party guests besides the band. A fun thing, really fun, an unusual choice, but it does work. I guess a Canadian band later did this too. And when we get to Smiley Smile, apparently it's kind of a similar situation here with that. But we're not there yet. We're a couple albums away from that one. But yeah, that's a fun little thing. Let's make a party. And yeah, even like everything is coordinated, even like Jim Crutches. Everything is like rehearsed, coordinated, timed, But it works. You can't tell that it's not actually happening that way. I think it comes off very nicely. But check out that big Uncovered Unplugged or something like that. You'll find it. It's put in Beach Boys Party. It'll come up. But yeah, there's like more takes of songs. There's a few other things that they don't show here. A whole bunch of dialogue sections. Them just talking about stuff. It's pretty cool. 2 discs worth if you do find it. I, of course, use the mono stereo regular one. I didn't have 2 hours and something to spend on it, as it were, time-wise. But it's very fun, very enjoyable. Definitely check out that other big one if you have a lot of time and just want something on in the background. Hey, if you want to mess with burglars' heads, turn it up really loud and make it think you're having a party in your place with people playing music. Let's see who knows what's going on. But probably not a good idea, but weirder things have happened. But it's a fun party, as it were. Beach Boys party. I think that'll do for this, though. We'll go next time to the amazing masterpiece known as Pet Sounds, which I really like. Again, I assume this again was not in mono originally either. This party album, put into stereo later, which will also happen with Pet Sounds and the album after for sure. But we're not there yet. We'll get to Brian's really peak stuff here next time. The great masterpieces, that is. We'll see you next time, though, in another video.